Well, this morning on The Dish, chef and food writer David Tanis, born in Ohio. He grew up with a love of cooking, often trying his hand at recipes that he saw in the New York Times. And in college in California, he found himself more often in the kitchen than the library.
He eventually ended up in Berkeley working for Alice Waters in the early days of her influential Chez Panisse, beginning an association that lasted for a quarter century. He now lives here in New York, where he's best known as the author of several acclaimed cookbooks, including his latest, David Tanis Market Cooking, published last October. Chef David Tanis, good morning. Welcome to The Dish.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
A fabulous spread. Tell us what you got for us.
Well, we have very simple food because that's the kind of food I like to cook. We have a beautiful spinach salad with Gruyere cheese and eggs and bacon. And for a little more bacon in your meal, there's an onion tart that's based on an Alsatian onion tart called Flammkuchen. We have roast chicken with roasted garlic, very simple but very delicious. And for a little more spicy situation with the vegetables, Indian spices. So the cauliflower.
Taste it. It's
cauliflower is bright and cheerful.
So I'm just curious, how does a man who grew up on tater tots and bird's eye frozen food end up whipping something like this up?
Indeed, I don't know how, but things happen in life.
Yeah.
But
where did your passion for food really start?
I have to say, when I was a little kid, I could always tell where the butter was. The butter wasn't at our house, but when it was at somebody else's house, I knew the taste of butter and good bread.
Yeah.
So when I was in my teens, I started beginning to bake bread, just learning from recipes, mainly from the New York Times, actually. And then when I was in college, I did spend quite a lot of time in the kitchen. That's where my interest in cooking sort of took hold. So
how did you really get your first start when you began?
Well, some people go to cooking school, and some people learn as they go. And there's a process called fake it until you know how to do it. So I was pretty good at faking it until I was actually qualified.
And 4 cookbooks under your name. What's harder, writing the books or actually doing the cooking in the kitchen?
Writing, I think, is a little bit harder than cooking, but they both require, a certain amount of skill.
Yeah.
But you were telling us beforehand, I mean, you're very involved in your cookbooks, not just in the writing, but you prepare all the food yourself.
I want to, because for me, cooking is a visual expression, an artistic expression, and so I want to be involved in how the book looks, from the photographs to the design. I want the food to look natural. I don't want it to look styled.
What is exactly market cooking? It sounds like some fancy European thing that's only accessible abroad, no?
No, it's the oldest, it's the oldest way to cook. You go to the market, that's where the food is. You look around and you see what looks best, and you take something home and cook it. That's market cooking.
And anybody can do this? Grocery store?
Anyone can do it. You can do it if you have a farmer's market in your neighborhood. You can do it at the grocery store.
Early on, you had an interest in art, am I correct?
Yeah.
And you see a connection between food and art.
I do, absolutely, yeah.
What is that connection for you?
Well, it is a kind of way of expressing oneself visually, but there's theater involved as well, because, when you're in a restaurant, the show starts, and then, it goes to the end. But in the beginning, so much about how the food looks on the plate, it's artistic.
Yeah.
So what's next for you, Chef? You've done the cooking, you've done the books, you have arrived. What would you like to do next?
What would I like to do next? Well, I'd like to go away and do a little research on a very small island somewhere.
We might just join you there. Chef, before you sign this, I'd like to ask this delicious meal. Who would you like to share this with, past or present?
That is the hardest question.
Really?
It's really hard. But I thought about it, and I thought Harriet Tubman.
What a great choice.
Actually. Because, she was so important with all of the things about getting rid of slavery, and also very important with women's rights.
Yes.
And I think she would deserve a good meal.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Excellent
Great choice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for joining us. What a delicious feast.
Thank you.
And for more on the Chef Tanis and The Dish, head to our website at cbsthismorning.com.